Hello, how are you today? Today I'm going to do a mouse reviews video. It's been a while since my last review. I'm very excited, but I had to come back because last week I finished Andor and I want to talk about it. Andor is a Star Wars series for Disney Plus and it is a prequel to the film Rogue One. It follows Andor, the thief who becomes a rebel spy, and it shows us what happened to cause him to make that transition. The series has 12 episodes, the last of which was released last week, and a second series is currently being filmed. As is usual with my reviews, this video won't be super spoiler heavy, but it will include mild spoilers. I'll be talking a little bit about the characters and the plot. So if you haven't seen Andor yet and you want to go into the show completely fresh, then I'd recommend, waiting to watch this video. I love Rogue One. It is my favourite Star Wars film and my favourite Star Wars story, so I was very excited about Andor and looking forward to it since it was announced. Definitely the most excited I've been for anything Star Wars related so far. The expectations were high, and to be honest, after the first 2 episodes I was slightly disappointed. It took a while to draw me into the show. To get the hang of the characters and how they related to each other, I really had a little bit of trouble with that in the first couple of episodes. There were a lot of new characters introduced, and we also had flashbacks as well at the start of the show, which wasn't so much of a thing later on. And nothing wrong with a flashback. I love a flashback, but it did make it harder for me to get into the show. It was just a further complication and thing to figure out at the start. But I needn't have worried, because from episode 3 on, I loved the show. I felt like from episode 3 onwards things got more exciting and pacey, things had more impact because I knew the characters better, and also there were a lot of things in the Andor show that I just love in stories in general. It was like somebody had a list of story tropes that I love and was ticking them off one by one. For instance, I love a good heist. A group of strangers coming together to pull off a difficult and dangerous heist. We also had a prison break, a multi-episode prison break arc, where we got to know the characters and we got to see them carefully planning out their escape. Hadn't been expecting a prison break storyline in the show, was very, very happy. And then the storyline that I was expecting to have in the show was the Rebellion, a secret plot to destroy the Empire, citizens rising up against their oppressors. I was obviously expecting that to be quite a big part of Andor, and I was not disappointed. There were some great characters in the show, some of whom we already knew and some of whom were new. I think Luthen, played by Stellan Skarsgård, was my favourite, probably the standout character to me. He had some amazing lines, and just generally the script for the show was pretty great. We also had Genevieve O'Reilly as Mon Mothma, who we knew previously. Such an interesting character, and I always looked forward to her scenes because she was living in a different world to everyone else, so it was always a nice change up when we went back to her story, this kind of super sinister high-class life. Fiona Shaw as Cassian's mother had such an impact on the show. It felt like she was in more scenes than she actually was. She had such impact on the story and just my memories of the show. And Andy Serkis as Kino Loy as well was another role that was, relatively compact but had a lot of impact. Such an interesting and amazing character. Andy was only in, 2 or 3 episodes? And also we have to talk about Andor, the eponymous hero. It was interesting to see where he started and how things progressed to the character that we know in Rogue One. He was a bit buffeted by fate. There were a lot of things that were sort of happening to him. It didn't feel like he had a ton of agency sometimes, but then I also enjoyed it when his skills and experience would sort of shine through and be important. For instance, during the heist and during the prison break, I feel like my favourite parts of the show were when he was taking control of his life and his destiny. So yes, wonderful show, really enjoyed it. There were a few loose ends I felt were left. For instance, the whole thing with Andor's sister sort of petered out quite quickly. What happened with that? And also in the final episode, a lot of characters converged in one place, but a lot of them didn't actually meet or interact or know that the others were there. So that was mildly anticlimactic in the final episode. I loved the length of the series. I felt like it was a good length, good amount of episodes and good length of episodes. I felt like the story had enough time and I didn't feel like the story had to get a move on, and the show looked great as well. I felt like it had quite a distinctive look and feel. Can't wait for series 2. Obviously we know it's going to happen at the end, but I can't wait to see how they get there. I will give Andor 4.7 out of 5. I was very impressed with it. What do you think of the show? Did you like it as much as I do? Do you think similar to me in any areas? Do you think differently? I would love to know your thoughts. That is it for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day, and let's move across to the end screen. If you'd like to see my latest video or some more reviews, then you can do that below me here. And if you're interested in subscribing to my channel or visiting my website, then you can do that beside me here. And there's a link to my Patreon page in the description below if you fancy checking it out. Thanks again, take care, and I will see you soon.